Mental Health and Addiction podcast. I'm here with my partners in crime, Andy Panda Bernstein and being coupled with Chris Perry Long. We've also got analysts with us, Willie Drinkwater. Hi, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
We've been on the
I
show.
messed you guys.
I know. We missed all. We all.
No. What did we do on our summer vacation, right?
I know. It's going to be an essay view. So just a quick background on us. Chris has been in the industry for many years, dedicating herself to working with families and helping people get into treatment. Andy has been an advocate for mental health and addiction, both as a producer of Crosscheck Radio, as well as through his own experiences. As for me, I'm a person in long-term recovery and the founder of a sober home for women on the Cape called Brady's Landing. And we put this podcast together because the three of us are passionate about reducing the stigma around mental health and addiction. We believe that the more light we shed on these topics, the less people will stigmatize and otherwise punish those who suffer from this disease. Moreover, we hope the information we provide and the topics we discuss will help encourage people to seek treatment. Thank you also to Fox Cable Access TV, where we now have the ability to take your questions live during the show. Also, we have all of this available on iTunes, Stitcher, and TuneIn. So please post, share the show with your followers, and don't forget to tag your friends.
We're ubiquitous.
Right.
We're ubiquitous.
We are
omnipresent.
Got that word in there. That's good.
Yeah. I think I know what I'm talking about.
And I'm going to kick it up.
That's a big word.
It is. I know.
It's an SAT word.
Yeah.
I learned it from Trump.
Oh, come on.
Political thing. What the hell? All right. Mr. Andy, you want to take us?
So guys, hope you guys are all doing well. I'd love to catch up with you in a second, kind of hearing about everybody's stories since we've been off the air. I know personally had a ton of stuff going on. Love to hear from you guys, kind of what's been happening in your worlds and how you holding up with part 2 of COVID.
Part 2 of COVID.
Kimberly?
Oh, you want me to go now?
Yeah.
Well, I have been doing lots of things. I actually had a couple of girls graduate, so that was fun. We're keeping tabs on them, seeing how they're doing. Had a couple of neat things happen. I'm getting a new Wolfie. We're actually getting 3 dogs coming up here. So we're starting the whole integrating the dogs into the program that are going to be the foster kids, and we're going to hook them up with individual girls, take care of the dogs. And so we're going to marry the 2 causes. And I'm so excited because for right now, they're all labs. We have Sam, Socks, and Max. So
Nice.
like a little,
Awesome.
like a kid's book. Max, Socks, and Sam. You
You got to say that like 10 times over.
Right. So that's like a very positive thing that's happening. I've been waiting to get this started. So super, super exciting.
Cool.
Chris,
Cool. That's good. Good. Chris Long, what say you? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm just inundated with people that are trying to get back on track. I think, relapses have spiked like crazy. And like me, I'm sick of the whole COVID thing. I'm sick of being told what I can and can't do, and what I want to do, and I can't do it, and so on and so forth. And I think that people, especially people that have had long-term recovery, that have relapsed, have recognized that this is not the lifestyle that they want to go through. So they're really digging down, and I'm working with about half dozen different people, and they're all very different as far as where their recovery goes. It's definitely very challenging. I've seen the mental health side of it firsthand, which I've always kind of scratched the surface, and it's disgusting how our state deals with mental health. It's disgusting. It's infuriating, and I don't even know how to even begin to address it because
right, Cindy. Cindy Freeman.
I witnessed it firsthand, and you always say, oh, there's 2 sides of the story, but I sat in an emergency room with an individual and witnessed it, and how they dealt with it. And it's just, it's just, ugh. It's very frustrating.
So why do you think that is right now? Why do you think that is it the isolation? Is it the being uncertain times? Is it do you see that that's kind of the reason why the relapses have happened? Willie, you can chime in too, but do you think that that's what the reason is?
I think that it's a whole bunch of different reasons. Obviously, the stimulus has been a huge contributor. People not working, people in recovery find a routine that works for them. It's different for everybody. And
Hmm.
now we've disrupted that routine with no support services in place for them to fill those gaps. So initially they're strong, but then slowly, they become complacent, and because there's no support systems, and then before you know it, the floor falls out from underneath them and they're back in the throes of it. I'm working on this Purdue lawsuit too, and I'm getting people's statements, and I thought I've heard it all, and this has been really eye opening, and this is across the country, so it's not just Massachusetts; it's all over.
You are for sure you are the most dedicated person I know, and so you know people are lucky if if you want to get in contact with Chris, I suggest it highly. If you or a loved one is struggling, I think Chris can help you. Mr. So you are a tireless person on the front lines, so we need you. Drinkwater, Mr. Drinkwater, what say you? How have you been doing?
Yeah, I mean, the stimulus checks for many have been a major trigger because all of a sudden they get this load of cash, and if their recovery isn't really grounded, it's just a setup to go back out again too, because they get this lump sum in a check. Um, I mean, the thing I've been finding in my practice too is people have hit the pandemic wall, so to speak. I've been having clients go inpatient psych, especially with anxiety disorders. I mean, imagine that you're OCD and germophobic to begin with, and then the pandemic comes. It's like you're trying to find hand sanitizer in 55 gallon drums. I mean, it's just crazy. And then I've had quite a few that have gone back to detox again. I mean, they're just hitting the wall. And yeah, in Massachusetts, I mean, I wish we were like Connecticut or Louisiana. Those two states, they picked up a SAMHSA grant where they combine their mental health services to their addiction services. So it's one stop shopping, so to speak. But
Yeah, but is it really one stop shopping? Are they
yeah,
really addressing it?
yes, because they've got both teams within the same program, and they work together. It's like but when I worked inpatient psych, which is one of the things that I do miss about the inpatient scene is that you had input from all the disciplines at the same time in the creation of a treatment plan and for doing groups and everything else. So I mean,
And
yeah,
where is this? Where is
it,
this?
the state of Connecticut and Louisiana, they picked up these SAMHSA grants years ago
The Nutmeg State.
where they were able to where they were able to combine mental health and addiction, which is the way it should be. It shouldn't be.
Right.
Massachusetts, we have DPH is addiction, DMH is mental health. Each of them is a little fiefdom. Each of them is trying to protect their own budget. And when you have that kind of a thing, then you have the advocacy groups. You have advocacy groups for addiction always at the state house, trying to get monies for DPH. And then you have the advocacy groups for mental health at the state house, and they're trying to get it for DMH. And so you have this constant struggle of which one's going to get the most money. I mean, DMH, the pack teams have been out for years and years. Yeah, I mean, they can't create any new pack teams. And that used to be a major plus. You'd have somebody going out to actually visit the clients in their apartments and taking them on appointments and that type of thing. And that's all it's all gone by the wayside. So
So hold that thought because we're going to pick that back up, right? I'm bossy right now. On this end, it's funny, we talked about mental health and insurance coverage. One of the things I've been doing is uh, in our break, I started doing a weekly podcast with former athletes and kind of their whole careers from in the full life. And one of the and Willie, you remember Theo Fleury? We had him
oh
on our
yes,
show.
yes.
So we interviewed Theo yesterday, and Theo was fantastic. Theo played in the NHL for a very long time. He played over 1,000 games. He's should be in the Hall of Fame. And Theo did a podcast, and we talked about his playing career, but we also talked about his drug addiction, gambling, and he said that he finally realized it was when he treated his mental health, he got in front of his addictions. And so he's, and he said it took him a long time. He tried to commit suicide and stuff. So just wanted to see if you remembered Theo, because he was talking about that. So, but yeah,
No, I mean, I've mentioned before how, like if you show me someone that's been in the detox 5 times or 10 times, and I'll show you somebody that has a mental health piece that's not getting addressed.
right.
That's just it. So you get these kids, they relapse because their mental health has not been addressed. They got the substance abuse under control, but the only way they can deal with their mental health is by using the substances. So we put them back in detox.
Yeah.
They're frustrated, they're tired of it, and we spin them. I got a kid right now in detox. I can't even tell you how many times they've been in and out of detox. And, then it's like, okay, well, you need treatment. But we're not giving them the right kind of treatment. We're giving them just the same groups, the same.
Yeah.
I'm going to pause you. I'm going to put you. Hold on. We're going to get there. I know you got a lot to say. We're very wound up today on Friday morning. Kimberly, I don't read Red Book. We're going to hear from David Bastano from ARC, but behavioral health. But before we get to him, Kimberly, you read an article in Red Book. I don't read Red Book myself.
Never even heard of it.
If I said you could link, you could.
Well, I do. I know, but you discovered the article. Tell us about it.
It is basically, I wanted to find more inspiring stories for this whole COVID nightmare. We all know there's bad numbers and there's bad things happening. So I kind of wanted to shift the focus over to things that are good happening in this pandemic. For instance, so these have like several different small summaries of people who are doing very selfless and inspirational things out there in the world. For instance, they've got all kinds of people like groups of children going into senior homes, staying outside the windows and writing them cards. They've got this one local mom had packed lunch bags for people who were hungry, who didn't have food to eat. It's really neat, stories of hope. There's a guy in South Dakota who's a teacher who taught his student a lesson from her porch, through a window. People like thinking outside of the box and really, finding ways to reach out to people in need. And I think it's especially important for, the addicts and people with mental illnesses because, well, like you guys were just talking about, we're lacking connection. Connection is the whole basis of the program it's the foundation of what we advocate, of what we stand for. And when we take that connection off, we're completely isolated. That's what addicts do.
If I can interject there, Kim too, there's a great YouTube by a gentleman named Johan Hari, and he talks about addiction is an issue of connection. And
yes.
I just showed it to my classes the other night.
Rat Park.
Yeah. Yes. Rat Park. Exactly.
Where can people find that article?
Oh, it's anywhere on YouTube. If you type in Rat Park, you will find.
No. The previous one, from Red Book.
Oh, the Red. Michael. I think Michael has that. It's Red Book magazine, inspiring COVID stories. So there it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I just had this discussion about leadership. Now, leadership doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be, put somebody in charge to say they're a leader. And it sounds like what with this Red Book is that, with things like COVID and, troubling times, leaders are the ones who do things like that. They're the people who try to change, what they can focus on, what they can control, but they step up. So you really do start to see where the rubber meets the road with people when they're in this particular time and they're doing these positive things. So great article. Good. Check it out. Chris.
Sir.
Let's meet our guest.
All
the
right.
one, the only David Bassano.
Yep. So Bassano.
Let's introduce him. Bring him
David, in. Yeah, bring him in. He's easy. He's well known in the world of substance abuse.
Hi, David.
David's with ARC, which is got Northeast Addictions, Spring Hill, and Recovering Champions, and he's going to tell us a little
Oh,
bit
I
about.
met you before.
Yes.
Yeah, you were in your offices are in Quincy, right above where we
Yep.
used to do a radio show.
That's
Exactly.
right. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
I
then
know you.
they're
Yeah.
opening in a detox real soon, so he's going to share a little bit about that. David's an interventionist and is also somebody in long-term recovery. So with further ado, David, welcome, and
Thank you. Thank you.
share
Thank you all
away.
for having me.
So tell us about whatever you want. First of all, I know you heard what we were talking about, the whole
Yeah.
isolation. What are you guys seeing in your centers as far as, are you seeing a lot of repeat? Are you seeing a lot of more the mental health side coming through? What are you seeing?
You know, I speak to not only the individuals that come into our facilities, but therapists and psychiatrists, and the calls that I am getting are more geared towards mental health lately, or at least when the pandemic first started. It was trying to help somebody get back into a routine that they fell out of. And they were, they had the medication, they had the treatment, be it weekly, what have you, but they had that connection like you touched upon. And all of a sudden that goes to the wayside. And I don't know about anyone else, but I can be pretty dangerous in my own head when I'm confined to my house and don't have that connection. So I think people started, falling off the track and trying to get back on. And a lot of times they would lean towards substances, even if that wasn't their choice in the past, or they'd been, in recovery for multiple years. But it just seems like everyone, the training wheels came off and we weren't prepared for it. So we're seeing, the reoccurrence of symptoms. We're seeing people trying to get back into treatment that had been successful for a month, for 5 years. Trying new substances. It's been kind of, unprecedented to, really put your finger on, what's going to happen next. And, all we can do as a team of people in the industry is try to help individuals understand what's going on in their world right now, a little bit about their past, and how we can help navigate them, to the best form of treatment. That's what I've been doing. That's what I've been seeing, and it's been all different avenues from inpatient psych to inpatient substance use disorder facilities, from detox to outpatient, the whole 9 yards. And it's just a matter of connecting somebody as soon as possible. And in ways like this, where we're doing Zoom and telehealth, telemed, because people are still scared and full of fear and anxiety.
So you guys represent a couple. You want a couple of different things. I know that
Sure.
Spring Hill. I've been to Spring Hill. Amy George, and I know Eric, who both aren't with you guys anymore. Um, but what are the differences between the different facilities that you represent, and
Sure.
how do they work?
Sure.
And why do you need more than and what I guess what makes all these facilities unique? Love to hear
Sure.
that.
Well, as somebody who's reaching out to people or meeting people in crisis, it's not a one size fits all. So having a few facilities such as Spring Hill, which is on 70 acres of land out in Ashby, Massachusetts.
In a hill.
Yeah, on the hill. It's a kind of a retreat style residential program. It only has 32 beds. It's pretty spread out, so people feel as though they're not in that hospital setting where they might not have succeeded in the past. If they were just kind of going down a list and went to a hospital and went through detox and residential there and it didn't work, this might be a good avenue for them. It allows them to really focus on themselves. They have the fresh air, they can walk around, it's very peaceful. They don't feel as restricted or confined. With our 2 partial hospitalization programs and IOPs for Northeast Addiction Treatment Center in Quincy and Recovering Champions on Cape Cod, again, 2 amazing outpatient programs, but very different. Trauma-informed therapists, master level clinicians, we're doing DBT, CBT at both facilities, but it's a different feel. It's, you have a closer city vibe for Northeast in Quincy, and where Cape Cod, as Kimberly, it's a little bit more quiet. It's a little bit more relaxed. You're still getting the treatment, from 9 to 3, but it's just where somebody's going to open up and really accept their recovery. And that's my mantra. How can I help you be successful? So with these
Billy?
3 options under our umbrella, somebody could actually go to Spring Hill for residential treatment, continue at one of our partial hospitalization programs, step down to IOP, and be in a treatment episode for 3 months or longer, and that deemed success for some.
Are they men? Are they both open to men and women, or are they separated?
So it's men and women, where Northeast addiction is more focused on men's groups and women's groups, so it's gender specific, although it's under the same building. But
Willie?
so that's always something to look into too. You ask all the questions to understand where somebody is and what their recovery is going to look like, and try to help them, direct them to the most successful option for them.
Gotcha. William?
Yeah.
What say you?
Yeah, I mean, there's specific programs that I like to refer people to up here on the North Shore and stuff. I mean, that deal in dual, like Ballpate Hospital up in Georgetown. I mean, I do referral there because it's basically a DDART, and I mean, anyone coming out of the detox, they're dual diagnosed. It may be temporary, but anyone coming out of the detox is going to be anxiety and depression that need to be dealt with. It's part of the price of travel. So even though they may not remain a dually, so to speak, I mean, early recovery, everyone's a dually. So I think they need the education on the mental health side as well as the addiction piece. So I look for programs that do education on both sides.
And
Chris? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. And just to piggyback on that, Willie, you're right too. And if somebody is in that dual state, if they're in a treatment episode for, a longer period of time, they're able to really get a baseline of medication, right? Instead of, Chris, with the mental health, it's like you're in for 72 hours and all of a sudden you have a new regimen of medication without even having a baseline.
Right.
So it's able to really work with medication management too.
Yeah. I mean, when they come out of the detox, I'm a big advocate of them having a complete physical with blood work done, so you have a baseline to go from.
Exactly.
While you're at the primary care, then they should be referred to a nutritionist, and then we have to talk about getting them into a program of the exercise. Beginning with maybe 2-3 days a week for 20 minutes to half an hour walking. Just walking, just get the body in motion again. So,
Kimberly?
Yeah, so I have a question, David. I know we've, because of Recovering Champions being on the Cape, we've worked together on a couple of occasions. When I'm referring clients out who maybe have relapsed or what have you, how do you define ARC in relationship to Recovering Champions, to Northeast, what makes you guys special? What's your niche?
Under the ARC umbrella. I think across all of our programs, it's compassion, it's empathy, it's because everybody's hurting, everybody's comfortably uncomfortable, and it's a matter of helping somebody understand where they are. A lot of us have been there before, and trying to walk with them through the program instead of forcing them through the program.
Nice.
Right? Everyone, at least for myself, I was more apt to get to recovery with an open mind, and I did it and I walked through it instead of being forced through it. So
nice. And what about your story? Should we have David talk a little bit about his background?
Sure. It's been a while, so bear with me. So my history, I struggled with alcohol for a good portion of my 20s and 30s. Normal education, great family, went to school, went to college. and I'm seeing this more and more as it doesn't discriminate. A lot of it became isolation, the mental health piece, not feeling like you're part of something. Um, Even though I was a very social, had friends and all that, but in my 20s, I started drinking to excess and it wasn't fun anymore. And a couple DUIs later, uh, went to a handful of treatment centers, and I just couldn't get it. I'd get a year, I'd get 18 months, 6 months, until I really stepped back. My background is actually in hotel operations, and it's long and it's stressful, and there's alcohol and substances running rampant, at least through the hotels that I was working with. So it became a lifestyle. But by the grace of God, I went through a 12-step program, and that was what kind of worked for me. I went through the book thoroughly. I had a sponsor, worked the steps, helped other people get through the steps, and the desperation, despair, everything just got better. And you work it every day. I'm fortunate enough to gotten into this industry about six some odd years ago, and can help people help themselves. And I can share some of my professional experience, some of my story, depending on who needs to hear what at that time, and to identify what or relate to what I was going through to help them. But yeah, I give you the elevator speech of it. I suffered for about 15 years, trying my best. The one thing I didn't stop doing was trying. And I tell people all the time, you fall down 8, you get up 9. And
How do you,
go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I was curious. You had touched on something, and
Sure.
how does this industry? Because I always want to find out from people who we speak to, how does this feed your soul, right? If I could, obviously this is a tough business to work in.
Sure.
So you came from the hotel industry, you got into the treatment industry, into the world of treatment. How does this fulfill you? Just curious.
Good question. And I get that a lot. When I put my head on my pillow at night and knowing I hopefully helped somebody, didn't hurt somebody, and maybe open the eyes to an individual or a family, that's a pretty cool feeling. you know Being out there, it's not even representing an organization, it's almost representing yourself, and really giving it, people that don't understand this, or it's their first time. There's no manual, there's no playbook of what to do. So being a professional and guiding somebody to the next right thing, or at least if I don't have that answer, I can guide them to somebody who might. It's pretty fulfilling to be able to help.
And then I'm sorry, I just have questions. Explain how, if you can, and I'll let you guys all chime into it. What are some of the, you know, with so many different treatment centers, so many different news, during our break, we heard about American Addiction Centers and some of their stuff. I know them because I worked for them for 2 days, but um, I did 2 days. Um, what are some of the challenges facing your industry, and how do you facing the industry as a whole, and how do you guys see it? What do you think needs to happen, or where do you see things going? So, David, we could start with you, but then let's hear from the rest of our Hollywood squares.
um, I think the industry, has taken its hits over the years, right? With all the craziness that's happened in other states and other parts of the country. I think up here in New England, we do a pretty good job of, the ethical, standing in the black and white, not having this gray area. And that's really what you have to do, because we're dealing with people, right? We're not dealing with a pen or a product. We're dealing with individuals, So that's really the challenging piece of trying to run
Andy's having his own challenges right
I'm having my own challenges with my
Right.
camera.
Problem
Hold
child.
on, but I'm back. Hold on.
You're back.
That's how we do it here.
Oh God, you're all face and no body.
I know there's a lot of Andy face.
My
My meat face. Sorry.
For me, has
So I think like what you're saying there, you know, we've kind of worked in the same out of Massachusetts, putting people out of Massachusetts, and now we're focused in, you know, the Massachusetts. We have some really great treatment options in Mass, and 6-8 years ago we didn't have those options. So that's why there were so many marketers taking people from from Massachusetts, putting them in Florida, California, and other states. I think my biggest frustration, as far as, you know, I see how some of the better facilities deal with the dual diagnosis. I don't think that we are where we need to be here in Mass yet with availability for dual diagnosis. I don't think having a psych nurse practitioner, whatever their title is, there to be able to prescribe meds should be what dual is. I think there needs to be but this is my personal opinion, there needs to be a therapist or a psych doctor that can actually diagnose and then be able to prescribe and give the person the opportunity to get these meds in, get regulated. Because now what happens is people go to programs, mental health programs, and they get stabilized, and then they get discharged, and then they have to navigate alone, maybe with a therapist that they meet once a week, maybe twice a week if they're lucky, and their body's going through all these changes. And yeah, they go in and they check in with these med checks and stuff, but it's not the same with being somewhere and being able to have that feeling that whatever you want to call it, dealt with in the moment. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Mhm.
I mean, I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated that the way we deal with mental health is it's a quick fix. It's 2 weeks at most. If you're lucky, you might be able to stay longer, but it's 2 weeks and it's like, well, we got them in their meds. We're going to send them out and we'll monitor them. I mean, we've had multiple guests that have said that it has taken 2 years to finally find what works for their body with constant med checks. And in those med checks, you go through the depression, the anxiety, the suicides, the homicidal thoughts, all those things. I mean, I know you can't keep somebody for, 6 months, a year, but I just think that we need to address it a different way.
Yeah, no, I'd like to chime in on this too. I mean, when I was on the consumer advisory board, it was like I remember a meeting where everyone was, raving how we just got 60 new detox beds, and isn't that wonderful? And I was like, yeah, and what's going to happen? They're going to come out. We don't have enough 30-day programs. And then when you look at Harvard research is telling you right up front that you don't begin to see a significant drop in the relapse rate till someone gets to 100 days of continuous treatment. But it's always 30-day, 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 CSS, TSS. It's interesting, it's nice, but the probability of them remaining sober after 30 days is not that great. It really isn't. You have to hit at least 100 days. So, I mean.
I have a question. Not about my camera but my question is, I have a family member who has used cannabis for a very, very long time and dependent on cannabis. People say you can't get dependent. I'm pretty sure you can in some way, right? And he's also a big gambler, and he had sex stuff and all this. It's interesting and he lost a girlfriend and she overdosed and young. The thing is he quit everything. The gambling and the cannabis. It's been several months. And being isolated with the COVID, he lives out west. My question is he wanted that, right? He wanted to stop, right? It was in him to stop. How much of this, and if I'm being ignorant, but how much is this is like, you know, what are people's desires, right? Too, in your own internal, like, it's like you could tell me to, it's not good for me, or we're going to go through therapy and things like that. But how much of it is the individual who has to say, you know what, I'm not doing it anymore? And how does that factor into the treatment equation? Like, how do we hold people accountable their own self?
You're opening up Pandora's box now. You definitely are. I mean, there was a book that came out years ago by a professor emeritus from BC. He does research at McLean by the name of Gene Heyman, and he came out with a book called Addiction: A Disorder of Choice. And people went off the rails. He was on talk show, and 12-step people were calling up and just wanting to ream this guy out and stuff. But in his research, he said 70 to 80% of people get sober on their own between the ages of 30 and 35. And
I believe that.
well, I actually knew Gene, so I called him up, and he was, and I said, so you're saying people get sober on their own between 30 and 35 without any type of formal treatment? And he goes, yes. And I said, well, you didn't mention in your book were people using community supports like 12-step meetings and smart recovery and this and that. And he said, well, yeah. I said, you didn't say that in your book, though. So I mean, but he was saying, 30 to 35, because you get to that age where you realize that this isn't going to go on forever, life, and maybe there's stuff I want to do. But when that book, when he took it off the medical model, there's been others that have taken it off the medical model too. And, they get a lot of flack. It's a Pandora's box. It really, really is. What you're talking, Andy, is almost like spontaneous remission. He just said, okay, I'm done.
Well, he had a loss, right? The girl who he was dating, who he cared about and loved deeply, overdosed of fentanyl. Yeah. And it really
rocked his world.
Yeah. And he just decided, I've had enough. And because he was telling me last night, his lifestyle, like he was living in her lifestyle when she died, because when she died, it freed him to start living his own life, because he was caught up in her lifestyle. So it's just remarkable to me that he's just like, I'm not gambling and I'm not using weed at the same time. And he's been doing great with it because he made up his mind. So I just, we talk about this. It's like, but sometimes you can't chase people who don't want to be caught.
I'd like to circle back to something that Kim was saying earlier. Kim was talking about, what are the positives that are coming out of the COVID? And one of the big ones that I've been seeing with several clients is there's a self-reflection period going on now. It actually, they were going 100 miles an hour, and then the COVID slammed on the brakes. And now they're really thinking about where their life is at, where it was, and where they want to go to. I'm even seeing this with my fellow therapists. It's like, I don't know how many therapists I've been talking to, in our North Shore group, and they're all saying, yeah, when this is over, I don't want to be leaving the Cumming Center 3 or 4 nights a week at 7 or 8 o'clock at night. Maybe I'll use my office for morning appointments, and then if somebody wants an appointment after 2 or 3 in the afternoon, I'll be glad to do it, but it's going to have to be teletherapy from home. I want to be home. I don't want to be, I don't want to be staying out there till 7 or 8 o'clock at night. So
can you guys relate?
There's a lot of self-reflection that's going on now too.
Lots of positives, unbelievable positives. I mean, just you're right, Lily. They have to slow down. You have to slow down. You have no choice. I had the girls were taking 2 to 3 walks during the day because it was beautiful outside. And it was like, and just sitting and watching and just looking and just being with themselves and then journaling.
Yeah, it's like when I was on the comedy scene, we used to joke about East Coast comedy versus West Coast. And, on both coasts, you're doing 16-hour days, right? I mean, the East Coast, you're getting up, you're going to radio stations, you're doing the promo, you're getting ready for the show that night. LA, out on the West Coast, it was like, oh, it's 2 a.m. Why don't we stop and go get a latte? I mean, it was just a much more slower pace. It was a livable pace. Where on the East Coast, it was insane. It was like, it's almost like Boston's a bipolar town. You go 100 miles an hour and 100 miles an hour, and then you crash. And then you go 100 miles an hour. It's just crazy.
Work to live on the West Coast, live to work on the East Coast.
the East Coast, you live to work, and on the West Coast, you work to live. It's just you go down south, it's that way too. You don't live. They even do things down south, like they might take off like a Wednesday in the middle of the week, and you're going, how can you take? Well, when we work hard. Once in a while, we take off an extra day to go fishing or hunt. I mean,
Isn't it like so my husband travels around the world and he goes to like was going to Saudi Arabia a lot. I think it was Kuwait, I don't know. But they would take naps. Like that's it. You don't work during this time. And he was like, I didn't know what to do with myself.
You go to the Mediterranean, they do that. You go to Italy, they close everything down in Calabria.
Yeah, you take siesta time at 2:00.
American companies in Italy, they tried to get everyone, on a straight 40 hours, and it ended up being less productive than allowing them to have, the afternoon off and then coming back and, wrapping up in the early evening time. So,
David, what say you?
Yeah, I was going to say we need to hear from David.
I agree with all that. I used to live in Europe, so I totally understand the whole when it shuts down, and I'm looking around going, I'm the American, what do I do? Right?
Yeah.
I got acclimated with it. I started eating dinner at 10 o'clock like the rest of them.
Right.
That's my father-in-law. Yeah.
But it's right. You start seeing everybody slowing down, everybody having that self-reflection, even Earth in general, right? The smog starting to lift, the rivers are getting cleaner, the pollution. I kind of, parallel that to some of us if we're able to, have that healthy, looking deep inside and say, what's important, right? What's important to me now that everything's slowing down? Can my relationships with my family, my loved ones, my friends, how can I strengthen that and grow that? And all of a sudden your priorities shift a little to where, oh my gosh, I am more productive. I'm able to work, in Boston, we're not commuting as much. You're not in the car as often. You're getting more things accomplished. You're talking to people in a different form of communication. And even though it's not that face-to-face, I feel as though we're touching more people. Right? We're reaching out to more people. People are they're able to get the help they need if they're in a remote area, and they're able to participate in telehealth groups, telehealth therapy. So I've been able to connect people that might not have gone to treatment. So that's a good thing too, if they're open to the change. And we all know change is difficult.
David, let's talk about process for a second. And you guys can all chime in on this too, but with process, so we talk about insurance and we talk about all the different ways to getting in the treatment, etc. How does your process work with your insurance, and how do you how if somebody wants treatment, how do you
what does it look like?
What are the steps? Thank you. What are the steps?
For any of our facilities, we try to make it very simple. At least the people that I come into contact with, my phone is always on. People call me all the time and I'll help get them into treatment. At our facilities, same thing. We're actually opening a detox in 3 weeks. So that process will speed up because of the processes we're putting into place, be it calling me directly, calling our 800 number. We know that there's a small window of opportunity, so we want to make sure we get that in place as quickly as possible.
Okay.
So my phone number, our 800 number, we do accept insurance. It's a private company. It's commercial insurance, self-pay. That's our model for starters. We're looking to expand that down the road. We've expanded over the last year, acquiring 2 facilities and opening our first, but our 4th facility coming on. And again, it's more beds to offer people in New England. Some people come in from out of state. It's a little challenging now with the COVID, but we're trying to help as many people as we can.
Why don't you share real quick about Bedrock, right?
Correct. So the new
Joe Rockhead.
every time I hear Bedrock, I think of Red Flintstone.
Me too, right?
That just shows my
Absolutely.
age,
The way outs. We're going to the way outs, way outs.
right? No,
Is Bam Bam the receptionist?
yeah. Just don't call me Pebbles.
Hoppy.
Pebbles.
No,
I got the
so
brick rock.
yeah, so Bedrock is located in Canton, Canton, Mass.
My neck
right
of the
off
woods.
24, and we're opening for starters, or phase one at least, a 20-bed detox and 20-bed, soon to be 40-bed residential program. It's tucked away in a nice area of Canton, which it's kind of not off the beaten path, but a feeling of support and safety for everyone there. We will be looking into adding a first responders track as well. It was part of our vision to be able to, and it's not due to the COVID. It was something that we've been looking at for quite a while and implementing that hopefully in a few months after we open. So that's exciting to be able to, help all the people in Massachusetts and surrounding states that have helped us along the way. It's exciting. I've opened facilities before, and this is going to be another, I can't wait to share it with people, right? And show the state-of-the-art treatment center. It doesn't have to be top notch. It doesn't have to be bottom of the barrel. People get clean and sober where they want to, when it's time. But being able to offer something, to the communities is going to be awesome. And that way we'll have the addition to the Spring Hill residential. We'll now have the detox part to really help people stay on a track of recovery if they have the ability and time to do it. Yeah, absolutely.
How does it differ
I just have
from
a
a?
question.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's
I
sorry.
just wanted to, Canton. So how close is that to Randolph? Wait, Randolph.
Very close.
Randolph.
Very close.
It's close. It's right next
They're
door.
sister cities.
Yeah.
Sorry, Andy, go ahead.
Randolph. How do you differ than some of the other, from the detox center? Obviously, there's a big need for the detox centers. How do you guys differ from, like, say, a Clean Slate or some of the other, what are some of your competitive advantages, if you could speak to that?
Sure. Well,
Not to put you on the spot, but
yeah.
What you just did.
Yeah, right.
I'm like Mike Wallace. I'm like Mike Wallace. I'm an investigative reporter, but
Right. No, I mean it's inpatient detox, right? So it's not outpatient like Clean Slate. It's a medical detox. It's triage. It's that piece to help someone medically detox you safely for the 5 to 10 days, whatever that looks like, based on a protocol to get you safely detoxed and then to the next level, right? In a comfortable environment. And again, it comes back to the nutrition piece. Obviously, there's not the whole lot of exercise going on in a detox, but it's to help you help yourself get through this, right? You're comfortably uncomfortable. You're getting the medications you need to keep your blood pressure stable and help you through the discomfort of kind of it's not rainbows and puppy dogs sometimes.
Okay, so I have a question for you.
Yeah.
The mass health detoxes, right? You have to, with methadone, we're talking about methadone. You have to be down to a certain amount of milligrams. I know this is a technical question. You might not have the answer, but I also know that like in the private detoxes, they're able to take higher doses of methadone to detox from. Are you going to be able to detox somebody from a higher dose of methadone?
Great question, and I do not have the answer to that yet. So I will not pretend I do.
Okay. Okay, because that's important, because there's a lot of people,
Very much.
One of the things that I've been seeing too is a lot of people, I've got a lot of people that have gone from Suboxone that are now going to methadone, which is, we've seen a spike in people going to methadone, which is, I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But on the same token, you know, they're already talking about how to get off of methadone. And there's not a whole lot of options out there for somebody who's on 120 milligrams of methadone a day to be able to go and detox at, say, like High Point or something like that. They want them down to a very low dose. And when you get down to that low dose, then you run the risk of relapse. And it's like, it's just counterproductive to me. But
yeah, Chris, I mean, with methadone too, the research has shown to successfully come off of methadone, it's 1 milligram a week.
Right.
With supportive services, therapy,
Right.
individual therapy, and couples and family involved too.
Right.
But it's 1
It's not an
milligram a week.
inpatient. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's just a whole nother topic. Methadone is a whole
Yeah.
nother topic.
What are some of the things you're seeing right now? And I'll throw that out to all of you guys in our remaining minutes. What do you see as far as the cases? Are they is it methamphetamine? Is it, you know, heroin, fentanyl? Like what's the current status?
I'll chime into that real quick. I did see a spike in crystal meth and the methamphetamines over the last 6 months, or probably a little bit longer than that. I don't know if it's found its way up to the Northeast, but I've also come across a lot of individuals that are struggling with the fentanyl and in their 50s.
Really?
Yeah. And
Why?
I don't know why. It's something that is either been pain management for quite some time, and I don't know if the pandemic had anything to do with it or accessibility. I just don't know, but seeing a little bit of that too.
Yeah. I think it depends on the region that you're in too. I mean,
Absolutely.
down the Cape and stuff too. I mean, there's a major problem with the elderly and benzos and opiates
Right.
too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, 100% seeing that. Absolutely. And alcohol. I mean, we always forget alcohol. You know, oh,
Don't
it's
forget
just
alcohol.
oh, I'm on the North Shore. I don't forget alcohol at all. The majority of my clients on the North Shore, you know, it's alcohol. I mean, I'm dealing with,
Yeah.
you know, Buffy, Todd, and Chip and the Beamer people, and you know, Country Club and Yacht Club, and it's alcohol. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
it's number one, you know, because there aren't any alcoholics. They're just problem drinkers. They're those that can't hold their liquor. You know, I mean, that's how it's phrased. I mean,
Right.
it's just
Well, you know,
insane.
the thing that you're going to see too is that we're not talking about, and I was out to dinner with somebody last night, and there's a lot of people that live alone and don't have people checking in. And like, I envision this when the world finally opens back up, how many people are going to be like, are we going to find like dead in their homes? Like, because nobody's checked on them for so long. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a scary, like, there's a lot of scary sides to this whole COVID thing and what it's done. And going back to what David was saying about the older people, I think self-reflection, you know, having to stay home and look at yourself every day and actually see that you have a habit. And because before you were so busy, you might have been a business owner or somebody with a high, you know,
At
title.
that 100-mile-an-hour
Gotcha.
pace.
This
Yeah.
is gut check time. This is gut check.
Yeah. And it's like they're realizing, holy crap, you know, I'm spending $200-300 a day on a habit that, you know, all I do is discriminate against those quote unquote junkies, and I'm one. And they take a look at themselves, and that's a big thing to have to swallow.
Face yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, to face yourself.
Can you give go ahead, David?
No, the other thing on that, what I've seen a lot of too is, you know, the professionals, the married couple, the husband or the wife, they're off to work, the other one stays home, or they're both off to work. They have their routine after work, right? They go out and they have a few beers with their friends. They might have something during the day. If you're a stay-at-home mom or dad, you might have your fix throughout the day as well. All of a sudden, you don't have that routine by yourself anymore, and your partner is at home with you, and oh boy, all of a sudden your hand is revealed, right? So I'm getting a lot of families coming up to me or calling me in regard to that. You know, my husband, my wife, you know, something's going on. I don't know what it is. So it's.
David, we have a question.
Yeah.
Do they have long-term care facility placement? That's on our Facebook post.
Say that again?
So Anne Bendini is asking, do they have long-term care facility placement?
Okay.
Um,
For
For the elderly, maybe? Is that what they mean by long-term care? You
Right.
think?
Not sure. I think she's asking more of, I mean, we sort of discussed it a little bit, but what if somebody comes in,
if somebody went
what's
through
the
the full
length of time?
if somebody went through a full continuum of care, starting with detox all the way down to outpatient, it could be a 6 month, 6 month treatment episode. Even longer by the time you'd hit outpatient, if you're in some type of structured sober living and continuing with outpatient, you're still staying connected to treatment and something larger than yourself. The statistics show that when we do that, we have a better chance of succeeding.
The
Depending
longer
on
the better, right?
success. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and David's right. I think that the goal is to get at least a year under your belt. If you can spend 90 days in a facility, that's the best way to go. I know not a lot of programs facilitate that. It's just insurance can cover it. But if you can go, as long as you can stay in treatment, the better. Then you go to IOP, then you go to sober living, and you do that for about a year. Your chances of success go up astronomically.
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing thing too, because the state doesn't want to pay for 100 days of continuous treatment, but they end up spending more by just having 30-day stays. So I mean,
Exactly.
Short term,
right. If they're not thinking
penny wise, pound
long-term.
foolish.
Right.
Right.
Right, exactly.
So, David, give us. We got to wrap it up here, and this has been a great conversation here with the Hollywood Squares. David, can you give us a where people can get in touch with you?
Sure.
And
Go ahead next.
and and where can they get in touch with you? Website, email, phone?
Sure. They can get in touch with me on my phone at 239-290-7297. Our website is arkbh.com, arkbh.com. And my email address is dbassano, BASSANO, at arkbh.com.
Thank you so much, and I'm gonna appreciate you coming on, Kimberly. I think you're in the top right. You're in my top right. Take us out. Take us out.
Okay. All right, David. Thanks again for coming on. Willie, thank you too for the panelists. Really appreciate that. As you all know, we do this podcast not only to help reduce stigma, but to be of service to anyone struggling with addiction or mental illness. We have access to an entire network of professionals, and we can help you find the right fit. So please reach out to one of us or on our Facebook page or at the numbers given on our show notes after the show. So you guys have been listening to The Nap. Thank you all again for supporting our mission, and we will see you on Wednesday.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you all.
See.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.